Welcome. Welcome to Co-Evolutionary Culturing, composting power over culture from the inside out, the podcast from Starter Culture with Sarah McFarland. Today, my guest is Shaleah Dawnyel. Shaleah is a third culture person, a thing between this and that, a third thing. Having been raised in a biracial context, she moved continent over 15 years ago and now dedicates her life to learning to navigate and enjoy the space between. She is a writer, an entrepreneur, an amateur chef, a friend and confidant, and conscious defector of the Matrix. She is also the founder of the School for Unlearning Berlin, which is how we connected, and because of her amazing work with the school, why I reached out for this conversation. She says, if you want a more, quote, inside-the-box description, you can look me up on my LinkedIn. Our conversation was brave and tender, vulnerable and inspiring, and I felt myself transformed as we grappled with the sticky theme of decolonizing at depth. I hope you get as much out of it as I did. Please enjoy Co-Evolutionary Culturing, composting power over culture from the inside out. Today with my guest, Shaleah Dawnyel. So here's my question that I'm living into right now.
Yeah. Tell me.
Through Starter Culture is, what does a decolonized, trauma-attuned, earth-centric, queer pedagogy look like?
Okay.
That's my guiding question right now. Like, how do I have conversations with folks about things without participating in the power over culture? How do I let that kind of dangerous co-creation happen through me and in the field? So the first invitation here is don't censor yourself. Please, like, bring it all, which you already are, which is one of the things I love about you and appreciate so much in our connection is like, it's all welcome. Right? It's all welcome. There's this kind of, neither of us have ever said that before to the other, but there's this kind of shared ethos and heart space that, like,
absolutely,
come as you are, you're welcome as you are, all of you, right? So please do not censor yourself. That's part of, for me, listening in at that co-creative edge together.
Well, you're hitting on something that I think is really deeply decolonial.
Working on it.
is that everything belongs. And that no part is better or worse than the other. To exclude and to box up and to create binaries and hierarchies and to basically use the tools of the empire in any situation is to deny life in its fullest.
Yes.
Right? So as complicated as the question is that it actually boils down to something very, very simple. Allow everything to be together. And allow more than one thing to be true at the same time.
Right.
It's very hard for us. We are taught not to do that.
So hard.
We run from it. We cover it up. We are so unquiet with multiple truths. But
because we learn if you're right, that automatically means I'm wrong. And if I'm right, it automatically means you're wrong. That's the whole scientific / religious world.
But that's just binary thinking.
Is based on that. Exactly. Yeah. The whole thing. Thinking. Of course.
This or that.
It's just binary thinking.
This or that.
That has all these roots in all of the things. Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to point to all the places that's infected, right? All of the systems that have been pulled through time and interwoven together to create the soup that we're swimming in. But it's just binary thinking. It's the fact that it can only be one thing
Right.
at once,
Yeah.
which is so limiting.
Right.
And it not only limits the situation that you're in, it limits your ability to imagine anything else.
Right. Which is why in your beautiful poem, what you're saying is like my existence is
Yeah.
proof, is the very proof that there's no such thing as either or. There's no such thing as right or wrong. There's no such thing as, yeah.
And I think that's part of the gift and the curse of being a mixed person, like
Mhm,
literally having two different color parents growing up,
mhm, mhm,
um, that are fully coming from different places in the country, different walks of life, different
mhm,
cultures, essentially.
mhm. Totally.
And being an American Black person has another
Mhm,
level to it because there's no reason why we would be there other than slavery. So
totally.
to be with slave and slaver in your house
Mhm,
as a third thing,
mhm.
and to try to understand the power dynamics, the
Yeah.
interplay of how
Yeah.
to mask what privileges you have based on which
Mhm.
sides, like it's
Totally.
really confusing at best,
Mhm.
and just like devastating at worst. I mean, I
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
because you're hiding from yourself
Mhm.
half of the time if you believe that you can only be one thing.
Right.
So the only way out of it is to break the binaries, which I think is why
Mhm.
it's a powerful thing to be. It's also why it's so
Mhm.
confrontational.
Way.
I walk into a room and I bother people. It's happened
Yeah.
my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what kind of room. It's
Yeah.
really interesting
Yeah.
that any place that is the slightest bit homogenous in
Mhm.
any color,
Mhm.
I stick out. So the more possibility, the more diversity, the more multiplicity of reality in a room, the better I fit. And I've always known that intuitively, but I think I haven't been able to articulate why until recently. Still
Yeah.
working with a school and realizing that the empire poisons distill into binaries and hierarchies
Yeah.
and this or that thinking, better
Yeah.
or worse thinking, and that's deeply informed all of my formative experiences and
Mhm.
perspectives
Mhm.
and solutions, what I wanted to
Mhm.
be and who I wanted to be with, and
Mm.
dreams created as a
Mm.
result of this limited capacity
Yeah.
to hold space for my third thing self. And I don't want to talk about it. And as much as I wanted to hear the caution of dear people who are like, let's not upset people with these definitions, I also just was like, who has a right but me?
Mhm.
If you want
Right.
to get down to colonization and slave
Yep.
and slave, I'm literally the product of it. So who's allowed to speak?
Yeah.
I don't want to speak,
No.
but I think I need to. And at the very
Yeah.
least, I need to do the messy work of
Mm.
accepting all parts of myself because I think
Yeah.
that is the only way to go forward.
Radical inclusivity.
Yeah.
All the parts. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
So just like easygoing stuff, really.
Just easy. I'm feeling both the resonance and the difference in a little bit here because of as a queer person,
Mhm.
the world around me is as a non-binary queer person who's with in a love relationship with women. I can pass as because I'm a white person. I can pass and I can sort of I know how to play the game of being mostly invisible, and I have that privilege to then be invisible because it's not on my face, and I can choose not to dress or embody that and be out in how I present. I mean, if you're paying attention, it's really obvious, but but you can pretend not to pay attention.
You
I
want to
have the
know.
luxury.
Yeah.
I have the privilege that, you know, there can be the unspoken agreement that I'll be invisible and you won't notice me. it's very interesting. But in terms of like the emotional work it takes to live in a cis het
Yeah.
culture and have to constantly be doing the translation and the like, okay, when I open my mouth, I'm disturbing people. Like I can
Yeah.
be there physically, unless I'm not so disturbing when I open my mouth and start talking about these things, right? Um, so I'm a storyteller, and almost every story you find, if the big story is in the cultures, I I try and I'm in a relationship with this idea of appropriation and which stories I tell, right? That's a big conversation. So I tell right now my choice is to tell the stories of the people that I'm directly ancestrally connected to. Those are the lands from which I tell the stories. But they're all binary and cis het, every single one of them. So every time I tell a story, I'm telling a story about somebody that's not me. And I've been engaging with this recently of like, we don't have the new stories yet. We don't have the stories that are actually embodying this non-binary on all levels. Shape-shifting, human animal, racial, gender, sexual. Like we don't have those stories as big stories, as stories that move through cultures. So we're between stories. We're in this jump place, actually. This is the time of this like between consciousness, this third thing,
Yes.
which is why for me, queering consciousness and being queer is like also this thing of like, I'm made for these times, man. Like I have to speak because I am bringing the queer non-binary voice of it's like radical inclusivity.
Welcome to the time of the third thing. This is what
Welcome to the time of the third thing.
this is
Yeah,
what we're for.
this is what we're for. This is what we're for. Exactly. And how do we listen and invite, but also have the courage to speak? And what do we say? And then it gets real tricky because then it's like, how do I speak without repeating the binary and making everybody wrong and thinking I have the answers because I don't know, you know.
Absolutely. Well, how do you traverse this with, on the one hand, knowing that you might be the answer to the question that people don't know how to ask, and also understanding that you don't have the answers?
Right.
Ooh, that's tricky. Hey, look,
Yeah.
two things can be true at once again. It's just like meta on meta. It just keeps working on.
Totally. Totally.
But
Totally.
to what you're saying, I think the first time I read a Becky Chambers book where the pronouns were they, the main character was they.
Mm.
As a writer, as a communication specialist, as someone who, like, my whole life have been trying to bridge between worlds, make people
Yeah.
understand, bring
Yep.
people along. Oh, that's not what they meant. Oh, you're saying the same things without understanding.
Yes.
As
Yes.
this person, yeah, who reached
Yes.
out, as long as my arms can stretch and then some.
Yes.
Um, I thought that they leading a story would be problematic, and it wasn't in the
Mm-hmm.
slightest. And it shook me to the core. And I
Mm-hmm.
really, it felt so important because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, what are we doing?
Yep.
Why are we so limited? Why are we so small?
Mm-hmm.
Also, why do we think we're like so important? We're so self-important and yet so unimaginative. And that's weird, right? Like, isn't that weird? Did we kind of like freak out about
Terrible
that?
combination. It's such a terrible combination. Self-important and unimaginative.
I mean,
That's such a terrible. It's true.
if
That's
that's not the
true.
definition of privilege, I don't know what is. It's just like getting
Yeah.
by on very little effort and
Yeah.
very little imagination and
Yeah.
somehow being rewarded for it, somehow being, very proud of the fact
Mm-hmm.
that you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Mm.
beginner's mind concept. It's,
Mm-hmm.
the Zen concept of just like, you know, I'm gonna butcher this quote, but it's the possibilities of an expert are few. The
Mm-hmm.
possibilities of a novice are endless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're taught that we're supposed to know and we're supposed
Mm-hmm.
to put our flag down and we're supposed
Yep.
to be sure. And like you said, if I say this and you don't agree, then you are right and I am wrong, or vice versa. And that's where we
Mm-hmm.
stop.
Yeah.
And so we're so boxed and we're so
Mm-hmm.
lonely and we're so
Mm-hmm.
isolated,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
not only from each other, but from parts of ourselves.
Totally.
How could we possibly connect with this world?
Totally. Yeah. There we are again, tasting the poison of separation, the illness of separation, and the poison of binary thinking. Like, oh, this belief that we prove to ourselves again and again and again through binary thinking
Yeah.
that we are separate from Earth, separate from ourselves, separate from each other, separate from the holy, you name it, separation. And we idolize that, or we glorify that through the cult of the individual,
Well,
right?
through
Well,
hierarchies.
and
That's where
through, yeah,
hierarchy,
sure,
right?
for sure. This is like the cults of the individuals. Like, I can, manifest destiny. I can make my world. I can create my world. Well,
Can you?
well, uh, in a participatory way, yeah. There's
Yeah.
and through relationship, you can definitely, you create the world that you see.
But that's the interesting part. And I'm concerned slash surprised slash sometimes it's almost comedic
Mm,
that we're so into designing our own destinies and designing our own worlds and paving a brave new path for ourselves. And simultaneously, we are literally copying everybody else around us.
yeah, little imagination. Yeah,
We're not doing anything that's actually unique. There
yeah.
are rules, we're basically following them.
Mm-hmm,
And we're calling that a life. We're
mm-hmm.
calling that creative. We're calling that transcendent. We're excited about this. I just think it's strange.
The poet Mary Oliver says, "Listen, are you breathing just a little and calling that a life?"
Boom. Thanks,
Yeah.
Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Yeah.
And going into these depths has me breathing deeper breaths.
Way.
It catches my breath. I stop breathing on the way in
Mm,
because,
mm,
oh, I don't want to do this. This is very
mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to live it.
Yeah.
It makes me deeply sad that we're all so
Mm-hmm.
trapped in it.
Yeah.
And yet, if I'm willing to touch it just a bit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's so much space in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much less restrictive because it's so much less limited. It's not the binaries and the hierarchies that come from binaries. It's like it can be
Mm-hmm.
this or that, it can be better or worse. And these are your
Mm-hmm.
choices.
Mm-hmm.
Go into the world and create, you know, replicated harm. It's like when you touch this, there's so much space there, which can feel
Mm-hmm.
chaotic at first
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we're not used to space. We're used to being captive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
That's
Little
our
boxes.
little boxes. Many
I
little.
think right there, that moment you were just so beautifully speaking to, so vulnerably speaking to, of the like catching your breath, fear, discomfort, I don't want to moment. And then if I can hang out there and actually touch that place and be touched by it, then there's massive amounts of space. It's like that moment. I'm just sensing in here to like the poem you started with, that moment of it's like that's the blessing curse of being who you are, is that the blessing is you can't turn away. Or the curse is you can't turn away. The blessing is you can't turn away. So your presence there, because you can't turn away, is a portal, right? It's a portal out beyond the hierarchies and the binaries and the boxes because you need breathing room to breathe, to exist, and
Yeah.
you exist outside of those binaries.
But that's why mixed people, queer people, trans people, that's why the people that are being the most repressed and
Mm-hmm.
silenced
Yeah.
um, are experiencing that because they're portals.
Totally.
And
We are.
when you exist as a portal, you hold this catalyzing energy in the palms of your hands, right? I mean, maybe you're
Totally.
not tapped into it. Maybe you're just, under a pile of absolute trauma that you don't know how to work through. And maybe
Yeah.
you're just struggling to survive in this system that's been rigged against all of us. But if you have 2 seconds to realize the magic in your palms,
Mm. Mm.
that's some cool shit right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's some pretty cool shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Existing
But
as
it's
a portal.
scary. It's scary to everybody, not just us, but also to them. And there is no them and there is no us. It's only us. So I'm careful when I say something like that.
Yes. Yes.
There's only us. And the box thing makes us think that there's some kind of delineation.
Mm.
The privileges that we've been handed out, and this was interesting because you mentioned this before, it was just like being able to walk out and present in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are many privileges that I have, and um in the African American spectrum in the Black world, I am
Mm-hmm.
light skinned.
Right.
So that one carries the whole box of frogs
Yes,
in
it does.
being the house Negro and being, and
Yeah.
having very
Yeah.
European features, and I have
Yeah.
I have green eyes, and it just there's all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff going on, which is
Yep.
super complicated.
Yep.
Um, and so it's just another nod to not belonging anywhere because the way that everything is set up,
Yeah.
it, everyone is divided amongst themselves in every house. So it's not
Yes.
even an us against them. It's just like everyone is separate from everyone everywhere.
Exactly.
And some of us are pretending a little bit better that we're happy or that we're free, but that's not real most of the time. And yeah, and doing this work is incredibly uncomfortable because you don't know how to talk about it, how it's going to
Mm-hmm.
hit people,
Mm-hmm.
where their realization of privilege lies. Like, what's the
Mm.
spectrum for them?
Totally.
Visual, uh, gender, money. Like, there's so many different
All of the things.
spectrums that you can play with, right?
Yeah.
And depending on people's awareness level, these conversations can go off the rails real fast. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You're naming the hierarchy within the African American community in terms of skin color. I'm also thinking of like in terms of the LGBTQ community, like where trans people sit and where, it's like there's also a hierarchy around that. Like there's particular ways folks have to perform femininity or masculinity within the queer community, depending on sexuality, gender, trans, like same
Yeah.
thing. It's like you have to be a certain, there's still these certain uh, boxes.
Well, and be more feminine or be blacker,
Hmm. Right.
for, for instance, or maybe things that we've
Instance.
possibly heard in our lives. Let's just throw it out there. Maybe you've heard those things. I don't know. Wild guess. Um, our commitments to what those words mean.
Yeah.
Their subconscious
Mm-hmm.
um, buy-ins to the very thing that we are trying to break free of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's where it gets really nasty
Yeah.
because the people that are doing the work, the people that are in the communities that are already having difficulty, the people that are not on the highest end of spectrum of privilege where they, are just immune to all of this, are still divided.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is that brings me to this idea of like, because this has been bothering me for a while, like how could 1% rule the world? That is illogical. There are so many more of us, and when I was 16, I went on a business trip with my mom and we were in Kenya. And it was the first time I had really thought about slavery and bringing people from a continent, and also had really close interactions with actual African people that were on the continent, right? That was the first time I'd ever really had that. And they were so different from what I had perceived, what the media story was, but also their level of just like family values and loyalty and like close knitness. This was very interesting, and I'm just gonna go for this one. This one's a little bit tricky. Realizing that being transported broke those bonds so severe, and how rampant having babies and losing, leaving babies and everybody just surviving in America is, to see that break in the line and to be like, how did this happen to us? How did we become so different? How is this a thing? And again, I'm making huge decisions. I was 16, this was my impression. But the thing that came forward was we had to be convinced to fight amongst ourselves. Otherwise, we couldn't have been controlled like that. We would have been too strong.
Yeah.
And that's back to the magic in our hands. It's like the only way to control us is to divide us. If we could just suck on that lozenge for like a day or two, I feel like this horrible laryngitis of, the soul could be cured and we could speak to each other again.
Great image. Laryngitis of the soul. Yes. And when I keep hearing from you and with you and like in your drenching all of your words here is this invitation to the heartbreak of that, to just let the truth of the way the world is built to create separation, the human world, the way Earth is built to as non-separate, as interwoven ecosystems, and how the human world is built to make separation, and in all ways and on all levels possible.
Well, and call it progress.
And I was just trying to reach for that of like advantageous or progress or success or cult of the individual, or it's like
that myth that we are progressing is tricky for me, because if anybody is really really on board with that, I have a hard time talking to them. I find like I try to take it from different angles to see if they're just masking or they're just pretending or they're regurgitating something they've heard before. But I'm just like, if you really think that everything's going well right now, like we're making progress as, as people, and the world is going well, and thumbs up, that scares the shit out of me. I'm just like, first of all, what planet are you living on? What drugs are you taking? I mean, maybe I used to take some, so we all wake up in different ways at different times, right? Red pill, blue pill, whatever.
Yeah. So, and that waking up again, it's just coming to that place of being willing to feel the heartbreak. And so a question that's arising in me is like how to create the space that is safe enough and held and invitational, rather than confrontational, to allow that heartbreak to be felt together.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the first step is realizing that this isn't working. Like the first step, the 12-step process is admitting you have a problem. Right. Like I feel like this is kind of like that. Like if we're trying to create a 12-step process for Earth.
Recovery from civilization.
Like first step is admitting you have a problem. This one is problematic, haha, because we tend to splinter here. Yeah, the first step, we tend to splinter because the problem is people don't know what the problem is. I was writing something about the School of Unlearning, and I was trying to explain what we're doing. And I kept coming back to the problem is we don't know what the problem is.
Mm.
The problem is we're terribly distracted and being pointed in all kinds of directions. The problem is
Mhm.
our attention and our allegiance and our concentration and our values are being pulled in all directions.
Mhm.
We are overstimulated. We are exhausted. And so our problem is we don't know what the problem is.
Mhm.
So if we do take the time to admit that things aren't working,
Mhm.
let's sit down and go, okay, what's the problem? And then we just come up with this
Mhm.
like exhaustive list and then we feel worse. So, so
Yeah.
that's a little bit tricky, but it is the first step. And I think the only way to do it in a way that makes it possible, accountable, movable is to create a container for it. And I think the only container that works is relationship.
Yep.
You have to have someone by your side to reflect back to you, yeah, that's hard. Yeah, that sucks. I don't know either.
Mhm.
Or I'm so sorry
Yeah.
that happened to you. I mean, I think that was part of coming to Berlin for me was getting out of an environment where my stories made sense to people. Really terrible stuff that's happened. People being, oh, wow, yeah, that sucks. To coming here and telling people the same stories, with lightness and quickness and a casual vibe that has carried me through, and then being like, what? I am so sorry. That is
Mm.
so
Mm.
awful.
Mm.
How could that happen? And it
Mm.
was just
Mm.
so incredible for space to be
Mhm.
held for me like that. I didn't know that was possible. I just
Mhm.
assumed that terrible things were happening at all times to all people, and nobody really
Mhm.
had the capacity to hold it. And we all just had
Mm.
to, buck up and get on with
Mm.
it and tell the story faster and funnier, because that's better
Mhm.
at party. Ah.
And participates in entertainment and consumption rather than actual feeling.
That's right.
That just that moment of so I'm reading a book right now about it's a NARM neuro affective relational model. That's a method of healing developmental trauma, complex trauma, developmental trauma. And I've been reading about unmanaged empathy.
Oh, what's that?
It's when you cannot stand feeling helpless in the presence of somebody else's suffering.
Okay. Yep.
So you want to fix it and you want to help and you want to do something. And simultaneously, you are like the boundary between is blurring and you're feeling all the feelings and you can't tell anymore which are your feelings and which are your which the other person's feelings are. I mean, they're talking about it in the client therapist setting, but I would say that this is true just in life. And how we jump to solutions and strategies instead of just hanging out in the I don't know.
Mhm.
Ouch. That sucks. Oof. Place. I don't
Absolutely.
have the answer, but I'm here right here alongside you in the bigness of that place you were talking about. That deep breath of the expansion through that portal place of heartbreak into the bigness
But to
of
be able to hold that
actual
space,
possibility.
to be able to hold that space, though, you have to build the capacity for yourself inside yourself before you can hold that space for somebody else.
Totally.
Give me someone who's going straight to solutions, um, and I know that that person doesn't give themselves time with their own problems.
Well,
They
that's
don't know
it. There we go. There's the reason for the distraction and the getting busy and the being over there instead of over here and movies and drugs and alcohol and busy and work and just don't feel. Just don't feel.
Yeah, I have a lot of experiences that I pull from in my development consulting, but that is
Mm,
like I'm at the point where you can tell me just very few things about your life.
mm,
And I know a lot
mhm,
because it's clear
mhm,
when someone is trying to avoid themselves
mhm,
or when the inner critic is so loud that they can't hear
mhm.
anything else, or
Yep.
when they don't have any boundaries around what is theirs and what's other people's. It's like
Yep.
it's just super clear
Mhm.
by how we interact with the world and the things that we want,
Totally.
ways we spend
Totally.
our time. And so, and these things are at the heart of what keeps us busy and then also drained. so that we don't have any energy to mend and to build more capacity. So it's
Right.
like a self-fulfilling cycle, right? It's just like we're
Yeah.
super busy dealing with all the crazy, and then, when we're just so exhausted that we can't get out of it, and then we're just super busy dealing with all the crazy.
Yep.
And so we just keep going around in circles like
Yep.
that. And breaking that cycle is really hard, but again, it starts with understanding that it's not working.
Mm.
I've never
Yeah.
seen anybody really transform their lives who didn't have a moment where they were like, this doesn't work. And then being willing to lean into the space of not knowing how to make it work, and realizing that you're gonna have to have people around. This has been really rough for me because my background, I've always felt a little bit safer not around people. Feels like I love people for a variety of reasons, but they're also super scary because we're all kind of crazy. And so I've protected myself from people in all kinds of different ways. Always
Yep.
been super social, always had lots of friends. So again, high masking in that department, but basically felt safer alone. And that's been my learning edge. I think, especially with starting school, is realizing relationship is necessary for this.
Yes. Essential. Yeah.
Cannot be
Totally.
done alone. This is
That's
not
it.
because this is a web of life job. I need past, present, and future. I need everybody around. I need up and down and side to side and every dimension. I need it all. If I'm actually going to shift this very big thing that is unwell
Mm. Mm.
in this world and in myself.
Wait.
So it's
Wait.
not, yeah.
Wait. Thank whoever that you're a portal person.
And think whoever that you're a portal person.
Because that's what we're for, right? Is to do exactly that, what you just said. My hunch is, or my what I know of you is uh, that the school is your current experimental answer to
Yeah, that's right.
this, or response, maybe is a better word.
Yeah.
Your current experimental response to this. So, do you want to say more about your current experimental response or any of its parts, poisons, so explorations?
So our main goal is to be a bridge between personal healing and collective action.
Mm.
And I think on this topic in particular, when you try to personally heal from it as a result of, sifting through toxic relationships and behaviors, and your world starts to get smaller. And you don't necessarily know how to address these systems of oppression that have been pulled through history, and again, all the right ways of explaining it, and all the intersectionality mechanisms. We don't know how to cover everything, especially if we're dealing with trauma, pain, our own shit. Yeah. So on the personal healing side, world gets smaller, harder to relate to action. On the activism side, world is big and scary and we're fighting, but we're also really freaking exhausted. And somehow we feel immune to these diseases, right? We're fighting them. We don't realize that the robber's already in the house, kind of a thing. We're gearing up, but it's like, no, it's in the other room. It's right here. And so replicating these behaviors, and there's so many friends that have gotten out of NGOs, have escaped them, and just had these traumatic experiences. And the main thing is, I thought this would be different. We're doing these good things. I thought this would be different. But the presence of patriarchy, white supremacy, there were so many things that were just, super toxic and replicating harm. So the school exists as a bridge between these two things. Because I think it's the only way. It's a two-handed approach. Again, it's not this or that, it's this and that. And I deeply believe that this primes people to take on any topic. Information abounds. We don't need more information. That's not the problem. Again, I'll argue that with anybody. Like if information is a problem for you, you're not thinking about it right. Like there's really plenty of information. I heard a stat, was it 500 years ago, a very well-educated person learned in a year what we now learn on a Tuesday. And I just sat with that for a second and I was like,
Wow.
5 years is a long time, but a year's worth of information for a very well-educated person versus a Tuesday. So I don't think we're
Uh-huh.
a lack of information. That's not really our issue at the moment. Taking an embodied approach, a complexity informed, so the personal healing, bridging that with the collective action, creating a relational container to
Mm-hmm.
have really awkward conversations that are both systemically informed, understanding the context, like we're all swimming in the same soup, and also very personal. Not it's not psychotherapy in so much as we're not
Mm-mm.
really going through people's childhoods, but
Mm.
we're taking themes and giving people the ability to connect with earth, connect with themselves, connect with each other, and understand the systemic context. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think this happens
Way.
very often together. And
Yeah.
so that is the prep step for
Mm-hmm.
any topic. Our latest pilot, Reimagining Wealth, with the topic was regenerative economics. But with that prep step, you are so much more porous. You're not
Mm-hmm.
psychically armoring up because too much information is coming at you and you're having
Mm-hmm.
to sort it and figure out what you
Mm-hmm.
believe, where you stand, where you don't stand. You're
Mm-hmm.
just open and also very grounded in who you really are, what you really believe, and a safe container that's
Mm.
contextualizing how we got here together. And I truly believe that that's the only way that we can stop replicating harm and start imagining, like
Mm-hmm.
reimagining the world. We need to
Mm-hmm.
reimagine so many things. Decolonizing has so many different things that it could potentially touch. We're just dealing with learning or the process of unlearning, but there's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that need to be reimagined.
Totally.
Thank
Well, you
you.
finished there with the imaginal, or we need to imagine
Yes.
so many things, reimagine so many things, you said. One of the things I've been deepening into lately, I'm offering a course on it also through Starter Culture, is deep imagination, like imagining with Earth,
Nice.
right? That our imagination has also, our world, our imaginal world, as we've been talking about, has become smaller, but it's also become human centric,
Definitely.
right? And so, like, what would it be like to have an Earth centric imagination, which some
Yeah.
people call a deep imagination, where deep, the depths means the place where the essence of all things is in relationship with each
Hmm.
other. Like, what if we were to imagine at that place,
Yes.
you know, where human and crane and birch tree, just to look out my window, um, we're actually part of a dreaming together, part of an imagining the world together. What might be possible?
Yeah.
Um, you know, that kind of portal question of what's possible in the gatherings.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
Mm.
But I think it just, again, opens up the dimensionality. It goes, it's the earth is past, present, future,
Mm-hmm.
it's multiple dimension. It's not just, I didn't, I never read sci-fi until a few years ago and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand its wisdom because
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was like, entertaining and whatever. And I was like, no, 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 this is imagining a different world, multiple different worlds. This is
Mm-hmm.
redesigning the
Mm-hmm.
systems that make up our frameworks and the frameworks that make up our lives. Like this is
Totally.
so anything we can do at this point to sort of break this open,
Mm.
to uncover the lies, pull the, what is it, Wizard of Oz, pull down the curtain, with the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
big smoke
Ignore
machine.
that man behind the
It's
curtain.
really big. It's this tiny little guy, and he's just
Yeah.
back there being, and you're just like, oh, it's just you. Okay. And just to pull that back to one thing that I said before about that giant room, it's like it's so scary at first because you're
Mm.
just like, I don't want to be here. This is too much. I'm very uncomfortable. I don't know what to do. And you lean into discomfort for a second, and it's almost like the curtain comes down
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
first of all, it doesn't kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
second of all, you realize that it was mostly constructed
Mm.
out of your fear of facing it.
Yep.
Never had the substance. It was a
Right.
monster under the bed. It was the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. And so,
Way. And this is what I'm catching here is like that's what your school is up to, right? Both on the personal healing and on the collective action level. Like, let's just hang out in that room together where it's uncomfortable till the curtain falls down, and
What's been
then see what
amazing,
opens up. Yeah.
what's been amazing is how quickly it happens.
Mm.
I just got finished going through a whole bunch of feedback from the program, and everyone was just like, I was just so surprised how quickly it turned over.
Mm.
I thought it was just going to be terrible forever, but because we were doing it together, it changed
Together.
fast.
That really touches me.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks for showing up today and listening in while we grappled with big concepts and how they weave into the heart of starter culture, as well as how they touch our very human, soft-bellied ways of being in the world. We hope you've been inspired and nourished, and we hope you'll carry forward what it is you've received and what has touched you into your communities and home places. For some ideas about how you might do that, visit our website, www.starterculture.net, and sign up for our newsletter or participate in an online or in-person program with us. Go ahead, spread the co-evolutionary love, and like, comment, and share this podcast wherever you listen. See you next time on Co-Evolutionary Culturing, composting the power over culture from the inside out.